Hi guys, welcome to part 2 of my home fire safety video. Again, my name is Joel Gay, and about 4.5 to 5 years ago I started a consulting company called Rapid Readiness Consulting. We focus on emergency and disaster preparedness. We also provide the sale of emergency kits, the kind of kits you keep in your car, your home, place of work, and school. We will be addressing fire alert systems and evacuation planning, fire suppression equipment and methods, and how to use a fire extinguisher. As it pertains to fire alert systems, the best thing you can have in your home is a smoke detector. As a matter of fact, in the US, our building codes require us to have a smoke detector in every bedroom, hallway, or living space. It is not recommended, however, that you install a detector in the kitchen because of the stove and cooking, close to a bathroom because there's steam generated from the shower, or in a garage because of the exhaust from a car. Most smoke detectors in the home are either hardwired with a battery backup or just purely battery operated. Now, the ones that are hardwired, that simply means that it is connected to the wiring or the electrical system of the home. But if there's no power to the home, then it relies on the battery to continue to work. And most of them require a 9-volt battery. We recommend that you test these smoke detectors periodically and to change out these batteries at least twice a year. And in the US, if you live in an area or a state that changes our clocks, that's the best time to do it. So for instance, in the springtime, when we spring forward an hour, you change your batteries. When we fall back an hour in the fall, you change the batteries then. The newer smoke detectors today available in the market come with a built-in lithium battery that has a 10-year shelf life, which is pretty cool. All you're required to do is to test the smoke detector periodically now, and you won't have to change out the batteries as often as the ones that have 9-volt batteries. You see, as things burn, they generate smoke. And if our furniture and furnishings in our homes are not made of natural materials like natural wood or natural fibers, but are made of synthetic materials like particle board pressed together with glues, that's the smoke that it generates will be highly toxic, not to mention it will burn very fast. I've provided in my description below a video link that shows you the difference between a living room set on fire that's made primarily of synthetic materials versus a living room set that's made of natural materials. And you see for yourself how fast one burns versus the other. I'd like to take a minute to talk about carbon monoxide and carbon monoxide detectors. Carbon monoxide is an odorless, tasteless, colorless, poisonous gas. The source of this particular type of gas comes from anything that burns gas, gasoline, or wood burning. Things like clothes dryers, water heaters, fireplace, stoves and ovens, furnaces and boilers, vehicles, and lawn equipment. Now, carbon monoxide detectors can be purchased just as easily as smoke detectors. You can find them in any hardware store. They come in as a battery operated or ones you can plug into the wall in an outlet with a battery backup as well. They are also the kinds that are combined with the smoke detectors. But I prefer the ones that's the standalone carbon monoxide detector because the best place to mount your carbon monoxide detector is about 5 feet off the floor, because I believe that gas tends to be a little bit heavier gas than smoke, and most, if not all, smoke detectors need to be mounted either above the door on the wall between the space between the door and the ceiling, or on the ceiling just in front of the door in the room or in the hallway. Now let's talk about evacuation and evacuation planning. The best time to do planning is now, when there's no need to evacuate. Make it a fun exercise. Sit down with your family and sketch out a layout of the floor plan so that everyone is familiar with the floor plan, where the nearest exit is, how to escape to a window should you need to do so. Another thing to really do as a family is to determine where you guys would congregate outside of the home, maybe across the street or catty corner to your home. That way, as soon as you're out, you call 911 or the fire department right away. Now, for evacuation, I highly recommend that you practice with your family. Your goal should be to completely evacuate the premises in under 2 minutes. So that's 2 minutes or less. A couple more things to keep in mind is, as you exit a room, be sure to close the door behind you. If you have to exit through a window, be sure to close that window. If the window is stuck, jammed, or you just cannot get the window open and you need to break the glass, well, so be it. Break the glass and get out. But by closing the window or closing the door behind you as you exit or evacuate, you are preventing more oxygen to the fire. If you are in a room with a closed door and the only way out would be to go through that door, and you know the fire is on the other side somewhere in the room, in the building, but you're not sure if the door is hot, one thing we highly recommend that you do is, in order to test the heat of the door and the door handle, is not using the palm of your hands, but tap gently using the back side of your hands to test to see how hot the door and or the door handle is before you actually open the door and exit. Another thing to consider is, if you cannot leave the room, because in order you can get severely hurt or burnt, would be keeping the door closed and putting bedding or some type of material or cloth under the door to prevent smoke from getting in. Now let's talk about fire suppression equipment and methods. The number one piece of equipment that we all should have in our homes is a fire extinguisher. They're very easy to come by. You can purchase them at any hardware store. And be sure to look for the ones that are labeled A, B, C. And without getting too technical, the A simply represents common combustible materials like cloth, paper, and wood. The B represents flammable liquids like oil, gas, and grease. And the C represents electrically energized fires, fires from your computers, toaster oven, or heaters. The location of the fire extinguisher in your home should be in a place where it's easily accessible. The best place to have it would be in the kitchen area, not too far from the stove, mounted on a wall, or sitting on a countertop or on a surface where you can easily access and grab it and utilize it. I would highly recommend not to have it in a closet or in a drawer somewhere. Most stove fires are a result of something spilling over from the pot onto the fire itself. And that thing can be highly combustible, like an oil or grease. Now, if you cannot get to your fire extinguisher on time, the next best thing to do would be to smother that fire, thus relieving it of oxygen. And some things that you can use to do so would be a large cover, pour, again, baking soda on it, if you can get to the baking soda on time. But the number one thing to remember is to try to starve it of oxygen. If it gets way out of hand, don't attempt to extinguish the fire. Leave the house and call the fire department or 911. Now let's talk about how to use a fire extinguisher. But before we do, I'd like to bring your attention to that dial that is on the fire extinguisher itself. In that dial, there's a little needle. and that needle needs to be in the green section at all times, which represents that there is enough pressure for you to utilize this fire extinguisher properly. Now, in order to use this fire extinguisher, you need to remember an acronym, and it's spelled PASS, P-A-S-S. The P stands for pull, pulling the pin. A for aim, you aim at the base of the fire. S is for squeeze, and the other S is for sweep. Now you should be standing about 4 to 6 feet away from the fire while you're attempting to put out this fire. And the size of the fire should be nothing larger than a wastebasket size fire. I have provided a video showing you how this is actually done. Let's take a look. The proper way for utilizing a fire extinguisher is to utilize the 4-letter acronym called PASS. P is for pulling the pin. A is for aiming at the fire at the base of the fire. Squeeze and sweep. Okay. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you found this very helpful. It would be an honor to me if you guys can share, like, and subscribe to my channel. Again, take care, be safe out there. Thank you. Goodbye.